Welcome to the You Person podcast, a deep dive into how a new way of knowing is developing holistic, innovative leaders at all levels of the organization and changing the way business does business. I'm your host, James Tuznia, and a big shout out to Lindsay Sterling for our highly evocative theme music, Between Twilight.
The calling forth of business, or the calling of business as a mystery. I think it could actually perhaps open unitive, innovative leadership in a different way. Like, I think there's ways it could lead to some kinds of openings. I'm not saying I know that. It just started to feel like, oh, that's interesting. If we were to just have that conversation and follow the mystery.
In terms of innovation, it might be true that the people who have actually transformed the landscape of business have done so because they were present to the mystery. That the idea of getting it all sorted out and lined up, ducks in a row, would have a tendency to have you doing business as usual, doing business as best practices that are truly defined and buttoned down. And that when the transformation of business and innovation in business has always been someone seeing what hasn't been done. Mm-hmm. And when you treat business as something to figure out, like there is one right answer, that would be a closed system, and life is an open system. So business as mystery would bring a presence to what is possible that would be more open system. And in nature, you have this, it's always an open system where life flourishes. And say in thermodynamics, is a system on its way to death.
Yeah.
So business as something that you hear the principles and you do this and you do this, and these are best practices. And of course we do this. It's good to know those things. If it's not a puzzle that more information will help you sort, and it's a mystery that leaves it as an open system, then it means you have the best of both of those worlds. You're still present to quote unquote best practices.
Right.
The mystery is that still true? And where is it true? And where isn't it? Mm-hmm. And can you be present to the mystery in terms of the anomalies that are right there on the edge and they're about to show up? Can you be present to that in a way that it's a creative open dance that allows you to be present to what that life at the far point principle, where you have enough of that sorted that you can hold it together while you're being present to all the chaos that wants to and is going to most certainly in our time disrupt things. So the ability to dance with the disruption that is ongoingly and increasingly showing up, an idea that the beauty of business is in the mystery, and the elegance and the skillfulness in business is in the mystery, and problem in business is in the figuring. Yeah. That I got it all sorted out, and here's what we do, and this is what we always do, and this is what works. Yep. And this is why I'm in charge, because I know these things. Not maybe the best strategy at the moment.
Right. It's part of what has had me be intrigued by Steve Jobs. Here was a guy who'd been kicked out of his company and then actually came back when everybody in the world was certain that Apple was done. Apple was gone. That was it. He had a practice of Buddhism and meditation. Whether that's important in this conversation about business as a mystery or not, don't know unless we would talk about it. But what he started to do was to follow the mystery and bring in a different kind of conversation. And you see in some of the artifacts that he started to put out when he first came in, a different kind, that he was going for a different opening in business. The thing you said about they see what hasn't been done, that how they've transformed business, they see what hasn't been done. He put out that video in 1984 that opened up a whole different perspective about design and business. I can't remember what it was called, but it really started to showcase there is something different we could start to look at. And he followed that, and it led to iPod and iPhone and a whole innovation and transformation. in terms of technology. And of course, Apple is considered one of the big four in technology today, not so much Microsoft. Everybody thought Microsoft won way back when. And so it requires cultivating a certain presence to being unsettled, to being at the far point and being in that kind of, there's something I'm following. I don't know what it is. I can't pin it down. And it really is okay that I can't pin it down, because to pin it down means I've lost the mystery. I've already gone into whatever action there is to take, rather than really listening for the calling of the mystery and seeing where it goes. That's part of what this operating system is about. How do you follow business as a mystery?
As a skill, you might say, that building the skill of following and leading business as a mystery.
Yeah.
Being a principle of elegance, and elegance in this case, getting to the place where there's nothing more to add, nothing more to subtract, the highest swing that wants to be swung, as the phrase goes. Cultivating that as a high level of skill, to dance with the business as mystery.
Yeah.
Perhaps being a best way to approach it, way capital W to approach it.
The way of business.
There is a sense of the ways, capital W, that fundamental to the ways is always being present to the future that's wanting to happen while honoring the tradition at the same time. That it's said that the ways is repository of a set of traditions and practices, a collection of, or a distillation, a condensation of wisdom. And at the same time saying that unless that's evolving and growing and transforming and changing with the times, then it becomes a dead way.
Yeah.
Then if we say that we want to cultivate is an ongoingly evolving way, capital W, being in business, then there is the transcend and include sense of honoring what it was wisdom passed down in what we call business, while at the same time not having it become a dead way, by honoring the call of evolution and transformation at the same time. And that would be the way of business as mystery in its sense.
Yeah, I think you can also see the sport of basketball emerging and transforming itself over the last couple of generations of basketball players. And I would point to Phil Jackson as another person who followed the mystery. He was really dropped in and looking at a different way, came up with a triangle offense, and basically had to retrain his players. And there was a lot of people in basketball that were saying, what? This isn't basketball. Like Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own saying, you don't cry in baseball. You don't do a triangle offense in basketball. That actually trained players like Steve Kerr, who continued to follow the mystery and transformed basketball yet again with cultivating the three-point game and attracting players like Steph Curry, who in the way basketball had been being played may not have occurred as somebody who is as masterful as he is from the outside. And all of that was really about listening for the anomaly and following the mystery as a way, to your point, and keeping it as an alive way versus it becomes dead when it becomes so rote and it just, well, this is just how you do basketball, or this is just how you do business. We're saying it doesn't necessarily work that way anymore, if ever it did.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the You Person podcast. If you are new to the podcast, please head over to our website, theyoupersonproject.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast, learn more about the project, or connect with our team. You can also reach us at hello@theyoupersonproject.com. If you think of someone who will benefit from listening to this podcast, please do share it with them. Thank you again, and see you on the next episode of the You Person podcast.